welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, March 11th, 2014, some stuff was going down in the world. The number one movie at the box office that day was 300, Rise of an Empire. The number one song in the U.S. was Still Happy by Pharrell Williams. It was reported that the Colorado government took in $2 million in marijuana taxes in January. That's pretty crazy. Jodie Comer celebrated her 21st birthday, and Johnny Knoxville celebrated his 43rd birthday. And a video of Kevin Bacon explaining the 80s to millennials was going viral. Remember when we were the young ones? But the most important thing that happened on this day 10 years ago was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 15th episode, Yes Men, aired on ABC at 8/7 Central. Hello, I'm Jamie Girac, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and level 1 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, Tony Pilato. Hi, Tony.
Hi, thank you, Jamie. Level 1. It feels so good. Every time I hear it, I feel more important than I did in the first half of the first season. So, hey, everybody. We're not live today, but I hope you're still listening, and thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I'm so excited because today we are joined by my dear friend and one of my favorite Marvel fans in the world. Steve Hund is here, everybody.
Yay!
Yay!
Steve Hund!
Yes. Oh, Steve, welcome.
I'm so stoked. Yeah.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm stoked, obviously, to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but also to see my friends again. It's so nice to see, like, Jamie specifically. I've been seeing all your adventures, right? But it's been a minute since we have been able to see each other again.
I know. We've only seen each other once since things opened up again. And so we need to get back here is what,
and we will.
Steve's in Chicago. So greetings from Chicago. And that's a great way to start into our what were we doing 10 years ago? Because I'll tell you, whatever I was doing, Steve was probably there. I don't know what it was, but we were probably doing a show together, or up on a stage doing some jokes. I want to talk about Steve for a minute before we get into this, because Steve and I went to college together. We were on our college improv team together. And one of my earliest memories of Steve is that Steve would make fun of me for being a Star Wars fan. And he would always be like, Jamie's such a nerd. And then slowly over time, it was unveiled that Steve was like, this is right. The MCU was just starting, right? This was 2008. And he was the biggest comic book nerd of anyone I knew. And he was hiding it. He was like trying to reinvent himself as in college as not being a nerd. And he was making fun of me for it.
Okay, now we've argued about this for years. In my defense, you showed up to an improv show, full makeup Darth Maul, ready to perform an improv show as Darth Maul.
My Jamie? No way.
So that's my point of view. You know what I mean? And I think I had a song that was like, Jamie, she's a big nerd. She's a big nerd. Jamie's a nerd. That was like my song for Jamie. Now, you are correct to say I was a little bit in the closet because I was at a period in my nerddom where I was trying to see if like, maybe I should like let this behind, like leave this behind and like move on to it. But no, they just like pulled me right back in. I wasn't living my true nerd self when Jamie and I first met. Yeah.
If anyone's watching here in just audio, just know that like Steve has a very intense nerdy background behind him. He has gotten over this in a big way, and he's wearing a dope hat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's my rocket hat. Yeah. Thank
you. Tony, do you know what you were doing 10 years ago?
10 years ago, 2014. Yeah, I was working as a brewmaster in a small pub in Seattle, where we made a lot of good IPAs and some pilsners. But I can't talk too much about it because there was a big embezzling thing going on. I think it's still an active case, but I think Judd Apatow's going to make a movie about it.
Wow. I feel like if anyone is like not really thinking about it, the amount of jobs and places every week that you've added up, it's actually quite impressive.
Yeah,
it's kind of a journeyman, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was doing I was 4 years in the workforce. So I was doing like marketing coordination at Broadway in Chicago, the Wickeds, the Jerseys, Jersey Boys, whatever, by day, and then hanging out with Jamie at the Comedy Theater by night. And also I wanted to call out Jamie. This was right around the time that we were writing Assemblers, the superhero sketch show. That kind of like flooded back in my brain of nostalgia when I was like thinking about what I was doing 10 years ago. But yeah, so that was fun. And also MCU was like in such a good place. You're totally right. I mean, it's what ultimately brought me back to all of this behind me.
You weren't in a position where you could walk out of a cinema and be like, yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'll never forget when Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, was announced in that would have been a little more than 10 years ago, because I remember Steve was like, this is my Star Wars, you don't know, this is it, this is my thing. And like that, I didn't really know anything about Guardians, because at the time, it just wasn't that big for a mainstream audience, and Steve lost his freaking mind.
Yeah, Guardians is my jam. And like 6 months before it was announced, it was when Bendis was like rebooting the comic series. The Guardians had always popped up here and there, but I loved Bendis's run when he rebooted Guardians. And then when we were wondering where the MCU was going to go, when they announced Guardians, I was like, hell yeah, yes, let's go. I was so stoked. I remember I watched, I think it was the Jimmy Kimmel episode, where that was where the first trailer was going to appear. And
that first trailer got in my bones. I was like, because I'm trying to picture it, because I didn't know about Guardians. I knew about them, but I hadn't read any of their stuff. I didn't get into them until after the movie came out. But that 59-second teaser where you see Rocket on Groot and just the gunfire and just like the vibrancy of it, they put all their chips into this, was just an ecstatic feeling, and it paid off.
Vibrancy, by the way, is the perfect word to describe that trailer. Is the perfect word. Yeah.
This is gonna be a 3-hour episode.
Cool.
And by the way, so our audience, we of course don't have a live audience today. This is the first time we've ever recorded without a live audience. I already miss you all, but I refuse to miss a single second of the Oscars, so that's why we're doing this. But we all are sharing a drink together, so if you're listening along and you're not driving and you're over 21, drink along with us, please. That we love that. Tony doesn't need to remind the chat, because there is no chat, but I will remind Steve that Tony has not seen beyond episode 15. So we gotta hashtag protect Tony is what we call it.
Can I be honest? I will do. This is the part where I've been dreading the most.
Everybody
is being so careful with what I say.
Everybody comes on.
Yeah, especially these last couple of episodes, because I went back and rewatched a few besides this one, and I was like, wow, yeah, there are some moments that there are some seeds they are planting, if you will.
Well, that we will have plenty of time to talk about this when we kick Tony out of the show later. But that's actually great, because I was going to ask you, because you asked me what kind of homework to do, and I was like, this episode really does kind of stand on its own. But 13 and 14 would be good to watch. Did you watch those?
Yeah, I did. Okay. Per your advice, and I'd seen them before, but like. I hadn't remembered. Like, I remember the major things that happened, but it was nice for you to say, go back and watch those, because it was a good reminder of like where we are in the world. What is it leading up to? And then like episode 15 was just such a delightful episode that I was like, yay, I'm so glad this is my episode.
It was when I was like, I need to find somebody. I was like, oh, this is because you've been on my list of people to ask for so long. I was like, this is Steve's week. This is Steve's week.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember. Steve, did you watch all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as it was airing? Because I feel like we used to talk about it with Brett, who was on our show earlier in the season. But did you finish it?
So your listeners will be appalled and shocked. I haven't seen every episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
Oh.
Now let me, before everybody freaks out, I want to just explain myself. There's 3 big reasons that I'll go through quickly.
And when you're done with those 3 reasons, just give us your address so all our fans can send you hate mail for being a scumbag. Yeah.
It is definitely not a shining light on my nerd card. But how many levels of, like, if Tony is level 1, how many levels are there?
Well, I think
that has not been disclosed to me. I'm just a level 1.
In the spirit of the podcast, I would say we'd go to level 7 because there's 7 seasons. But in the last week's episode, they did say Nick Fury was level 10. So technically, I guess we have 10 levels of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will say I'm a level 6 or 7.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah. I remember season 1 was announced. I was so stoked. I was so curious why, with everything that happened in the Avengers, I was really fixated on Lola. Like, I was super excited for Lola, the car, you know? And I remember being so mid about season 1. Not because of any reasons, just because of like where my brain was. So I remember it took a few years to get back into it. And I rewatched a lot of it during COVID. Fell off halfway through season 4, which I can explain.
Which is crazy because that's the best part of the series is the second half of season 4. That's the best
Not a specific part. Not a specific part. And I'll tell you why later.
When Tony leaves. I'll add it to our notes.
So really quick, my 3 reasons. 1, my ADHD cannot handle this show's format. I recognize this as like a super important piece of MCU history, but I am the type to see a shiny object and just walk towards that shiny object. 2, spy espionage is like not really my Marvel major, you know? Like if I went to Marvel University, I wouldn't major in S.H.I.E.L.D. espionage. I'd major in like Groot biology or Silver Surfer physics. You know what I mean? Like it's just not my corner of the universe. And 3, I do have some gripes that I will share with you, Jamie, later.
Okay. All right. I look forward to that.
But I have done like I've definitely been like a admiring fan. Like I admire you and Brett, our friend, how committed you are. I totally get it. I just like my brain. If they go in, I just need thwip thwip and snick snick and talking raccoons. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But if you spread it out and watch every episode on the 10th anniversary like Tony's doing, then you just give it 7 years. It's really breezy, and then you can be on the show again in the future and see how if your mind has changed at all.
100% rewatching like these last couple episodes reignited my interest in it. So I do think that this show will definitely get me inspired to like do another rewatch.
I love that. That's the whole point of this podcast.
Yes.
So this episode, absolutely. Yes Men, it was written by Alicia Francis. She was a co-producer for the first season. She also wrote The Bridge, which was a very good episode this season. The episode was directed by John Terlesky, who would go on to direct one more episode in season 3. He was an actor with a lot of credits going back to the 80s. His last on-screen appearance was in 2018, but he started directing in the 90s. A lot of TV movies, a lot of TV shows. He very recently directed an episode of the new Quantum Leap, which I want to shout out because one of our biggest Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan friends, Jackie, works on that show. Hi, Jackie. I'm hoping to get Jackie and Sari on for episode 20. Stay tuned for more guest announcements. Plug in the future right here and now. The cast, we've got our core 6, of course, and then the guest stars. We have Elena Satine back as Lorelai after debuting as the character in last week's End Tag. We've got Maximilian Hernandez, who is back as our favorite stand-up S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Jasper Sitwell. But the big surprise this week, Jamie Alexander as Lady Sif. Tony, I know this was a surprise for you because when she came on screen, you shouted, "My girl!"
Yeah. Well, you did the thing again. You did this last week when we watched Tahiti. You said, try not to look at the opening credits names. And so I said, okay. And I successfully did that. And then Sitwell shows up and I'm like, you fuck. And then I thought that was the thing. And then Sif popped out. And I think, every time this happens, like you've told me things that I'm going to like about this show. So like I had known and then forgotten that Sif was going to be on it. So I was quite excited because I love Sif. I think she's such a rad character. And then I've just been like perpetually disappointed with the use of her in the films. So to have an episode where she gets considerably more to do than she's ever had gotten to do in the films was such a delight.
Yeah.
That is cool. Steve, I actually regretted when I asked you to do the episode. I regretted telling you it was the Sif episode because I feel like that would have been a nice surprise for you. Did you remember that she was in the show?
No, I 100% remembered because I remember that being somehow I knew about that through comic book forums or whatever. And I remember at the time, like honestly being a little bit sour grapes on the Thor storyline with like Thor 1 and Thor Dark World. But the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif and Asgard stuff, like I love that shit. So I remember I remember during the time being so stoked to watch this episode live, you know. And I agree with you, Tony. Like, I would recommend reading the new Ultimate comic series, Ultimate Avengers, because Lady Sif has a big role in it.
Okay, thank you. I will do it.
Yeah.
Even though it's technically doesn't exist yet, where we are in the timeline of our podcast, her not being in enough of Thor: Love and Thunder, I'm still really bitter about that.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
So yeah. But that movie doesn't exist yet. In this episode, Lady Sif joins Coulson's team in an attempt to stop an escaped Asgardian prisoner who has the ability to control men. Steve, what just like overall, what are your initial thoughts on this episode? And I want you to talk about the fact that your wife, my lovely friend Natalie, I guess she's your friend too because you're married to her, watched with you. I don't has she seen any of this show?
Oh yeah. She's
okay.
She's seen as much as I have.
Oh, cool.
But again, you know, like going all the way back to this episode, both of us like remembered parts, didn't remember parts. It was so fun watching the show because this type of trope, this type of like love drama is like right up her alley, you know, like Grey's Anatomy type drama going on. So it was, I didn't realize she was watching it as invested as I was at the time, but there are moments in this episode where I heard her be like, "Oh damn!" and I like turned my head and she's like doing something, but she's like intently watching this episode. So for me, it was all about the Asgard magic that like scratched my itch. For her, it was like the no way, no you know.
I actually am the same way.
Again,
I love this episode because I love the love triangle drama so much. In addition to like Lady Sif is awesome and arguably like at this point the biggest non-shield character we've ever gotten on the show, and like because you know like Fury and Maria Hill, those are shield people. So you know it's like when they show up, it's like but this is like crazy, and so I just think this episode's so much fun.
And that was another excitement at the time, was to your point, this was another MCU character that we've seen on the silver screen now come into the TV, and everybody was like so jazzed and excited for it.
It was pretty rad. Tony, what about you? What are your initial thoughts?
So I put it in my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode ranking. It is currently ranked number 5 of the 15 we've watched. So it goes like these last 3 episodes we've watched are in my top 5. So yeah, right now it's between Tracks at number 4 and The Bridge at number 6.
Yeah. Dope. And it makes so much sense. I mean, it reminded me of Winter Soldier versus Civil War, and not to get ahead of what doesn't exist yet right now, but like Winter Soldier is the better made Captain America movie, some would argue. Civil War though, ooh, all our friends are here and they're like, everybody's getting together, like hell yeah. Like Civil War is more fun and therefore like my jam. Winter Soldier, amazing fucking movie, but I think what you're saying is like the two that rank, or the ones that rank above it, this are like crucial, have a lot of substance, have a lot of seeds planted.
High stakes.
This one's high stakes, right? But this one's just like, take a breather. Like, let's just like remember, like we're in a fun world, you know?
Yes.
That's why I love it.
I think that's so true. I couldn't agree with that more, especially talking about the two Captain Americas, because I think Winter Soldier is the best film in the franchise, but I do watch Civil War more. That's just a fact.
All our friends.
Yeah, our friends.
Come on.
Yeah.
All of our friends are there.
So we open with Lorelai. We pick up right where the end tag left off, and we got McDoozy. So it's actually Mackenzie. I really thought he was saying his name was McDoozy.
I
but
wrote
it's
Mr.
Mackenzie.
McFinley.
This motherfucker. I also love that
Such a
as soon as
chode.
Lorelai comes on screen, Tony's like, she's hot as fuck. She really is really hot.
I mean,
Yeah.
Good casting for what this role requires.
You said in the last episode that she auditioned for Black Widow.
Yeah.
Wow,
I think that sounds
crazy.
right. Yeah. She did like a bunch of audition for somebody. Wait, thanks for listening.
Of course. Of
course. Wow, amazing. She's like had a bunch of history with the comic book stuff. But she meets up with this motorcycle gang, thwacks McDoozy out of the way. He's got to be dead, right? That he's got to be. Sorry to his new bride. She's like, ouch.
He's very injured and like has divorce papers coming his way.
I know. I feel really bad for McDoozy, like that poor guy.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if you clocked this, but this motorcycle gang is the Dogs of Hell, who are also in season 2 of Daredevil.
I did not.
Oh, really?
That. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's obviously a different chapter because these are, this is more of the
like desert.
Southwest. Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's something to be said about the Dogs of War because I giggled when I saw their logo because this got big text that says Dogs of War and the picture is of a fucking pig. Oh, Dogs of Hell. But the picture is a fucking warthog. Like, you idiots.
Really? I didn't notice that.
I was just sitting there giggling. You look at me, Timmy, go, what are you giggling about? And I was like, I'll tell you. I'll talk about it later.
Like, I was going to ask.
We have our name. Should we do a cat?
Yeah.
No, not a cat. Should we do a bird?
Warhawks are badass.
No, not a bird. Yeah.
Oh, so this is all fun, and then we get to the bus. Skye is awake. She's having trouble with Dr. Simmons. This whole scene is very Skimmons coded. I definitely get watching scenes like this why there is a huge section of the fandom that ship Skye and Gemma.
Mm-hmm.
Like I totally get it. And it's like I tried to be coy about ships and will they or won't they, but I've already made it very clear that the show has no good queer stuff, so we know that this is never going to happen. But I get that it's like I get it, especially the more I watch it. I'm like, yeah, I can see it. I can see where we're coming from that. But the real romance situation that we got to talk about is Ward comes in and Skye immediately goes, "Oh, I must look terrible." Bitch, what does that mean? Like, I don't know, like you see Ward and you're like, I must look terrible. And that is like the first seed planted of what is a very big, as we discussed, love triangle episode. And we will talk more about all of it later. But I want to know if either of you like had a visceral reaction to that, because I did.
I didn't have a visceral reaction. I did have a reaction of just like, wow, like, that's weird. But they did. I don't feel like that's unlike those two to do that. You know what I mean? To have like pseudo, was that flirting or was that not flirting between Skye and Ward? So I definitely noted it. What didn't have a visceral reaction, but then just like shrugged it off. You know what I mean? Like rolled my eyes and like kept watching it.
Exactly.
Because I think the major focus is like currently is May Ward. Right. So I think that overshadows any will they, won't they when it comes to like Skye and Ward.
Until later in the episode. But we're going to talk about that later because there's lots to say about that. But I don't like it. It like when she said that, I was like, you just got shot in the stomach and died for it's okay that it also you do look amazing because you've got Chloe Bennett's face. Like, come on. So Sitwell is back. And I love this scene between Sitwell and Coulson where he's like, you want to go to a movie? And all that business. I like that Coulson like clearly doesn't like Sitwell because, we can't pretend we don't know that Sitwell is a motherfucker because we do. Tony may not have seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he's seen all the movies. So,
But remember, like, what I found interesting about rewatching that scene specifically is that wasn't that like a month before Winter Soldier came out?
Yeah.
Or Winter Soldier around the same time,
the following month. Yeah.
So I definitely, because I saw Winter Soldier, because I know what happens, that scene sit more. Like I will remember that scene now. I
Sit
think I
sit
had
well with
forgotten.
you.
Does it sit
will
well with you?
sit well. Yeah. But that was cool. I thought that was a cool, like, nostalgic moment of remembering before we had seen these movies of like where these characters were. Why did Coulson have that reaction to sit well? Well, now we know why. You know, like I like that. I like that scene.
Yeah.
And you know, we only have one more episode until the Winter Soldier. So you know, who knows if or how that will affect this series. I sure don't. But Sitwell being around is interesting. And also, I do love when he asked how's Tahiti, and Coulson goes, "It sucked," because we've got this magical place for so many episodes, and it's really fun to move beyond that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we learn that an Asgardian's in town. Who is it? It's Lady Sif. And I do like the moment where I think it fits. It's like Asgardians are allies, and Ward's like, Loki wasn't. Like, let's chill out. But it's Sif, and that's really cool. We love to see it. Lorelai is now taking over. Sif explains that Lorelai was imprisoned, but when the Dark Elves took over and Thor the Dark World, she escaped. So Tony, I felt like you also laughed when Sif said "rest easy, Philip, son of Cole." Was that just because of the way she said it? Okay.
Yeah, it's because of the way she said his name, Philip, son of Cole.
Yeah.
I love it. It got me. I really like that Lorelai was set free. See, Thor: The Dark World is not a very good movie, but what they did keeps paying out in this show, and I really like that. Like my favorite thing about Thor: The Dark World is the follow through that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has done with it. It's very good.
That's a really good point. I was giggling as well with like Son of Cole, because again, this is like old MCU Asgardian seriousness, funny like ways of saying things on Midgard. So that I also was like, oh, this is old. This is pre-Ragnarok, like Asgardians, you know.
I also laughed. The other reason I laughed is because when Coulson walked into that room and Sif was there, she goes, "What magic is this?" And like had her hand on the hilt of her sword, like because she knows Coulson was killed, and he walks in and she was about to like draw on him. They're like, no, it's cool. That was great because I just feel like that was a Jamie Alexander choice to just be like grab the hilt of her sword. It was good.
I love that. And
of course, Coulson asked Sif about aliens because he saw this alien corpse and he's like, "What aliens are blue?" And she names, hopefully I don't butcher them. She names Interdites, Levians, Farragots, Kree, Sarks, and Centurions. And
Frost Giants.
Oh, the Frost Giants. And Tony has already guessed that it was a Kree, and so we're just gonna keep that spoiler going because it doesn't really matter, right? Like I don't think it especially matters which of the blue aliens it is. And Tony's like, it's a Kree, right? So I didn't feel like I had to hide that. Yeah.
Not only the first mention of Kree, but I paid extra attention because when she was listing them off, I was like, ooh, and I paused it and I put the subtitles on. She also says Centurions. Which Centurions are blue-skinned people with big red fins on their heads.
Oh,
basically Yondu. Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, that was just fun for me, you know, as a Guardians
I did not
fan.
clock
like,
that.
Oh, Yondu. And like they are in the universe, and Guardians was around the same time, so I think they just like found a list of blue Marvel aliens on Google, right? But I just thought it was be like, oh, Yondu, yeah, a little Yondu.
Sweet.
I did not clock that. This is why we get Marvel experts on this show, people. So that's going on, and then so the team goes after Lorelai, and as Sif explained, men have an inherent weakness that we women do not share. Then why the fuck would you send Ward and any other man to go stop her? I think that this might be the dumbest tactical decision in the history of S.H.I.E.L.D. Why would you send men to go stop her? I think this is so frustrating, and it leads to some good stuff, but it's fucking stupid.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and it's especially appropriate that it's like, of course, it's fucking Ward. that gets hooked. Like
Right.
and I'm gonna have more to say on that choice because Ward, I don't know how much of this podcast you've listened to, Steve, but I'm just in a constant push-pull with this character of just being like, oh, good job, man, you proved yourself, and then being like, the fuck is wrong with you, man? And it's just ongoing. So
I really love that you said that because I've seen Ward through a lot of different versions of Ward, and I still am just like, here's Ward. Here
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
If you feel that way now, you have a kindred spirit out there that feels the same about Ward. And 2, I will see how you feel by the end of this. But yeah.
All right.
I agree with you, Jamie. Like, you have so many women on staff, and that you and you have Lady Sif coming. Like, just do the I mean, that's why the lady scene in Endgame is so great, like is so powerful, to I know a lot of no, you don't agree.
He's a hater. I love it.
Okay, I love it because we can talk about that later, but I do think this is the moment. This is why, because you have moments like this where it's just like, we have a clear solve for this. No men go near her, and it's like, okay, Ward's first up.
That is a bad choice.
Yeah.
It really no, someone should have had that thought of we shouldn't send him in there, but anyway, it happens, and he's stuck in there. But they go to Vegas, Lorelai and
this is
Ward.
the thing. This is the fucking thing where she's like, I need a place fit for a queen, and Ward's like, bitch, I got you.
Rev.
Going to Caesar's.
I paused it and laughed so loud when it was like that slow pan on the motorcycle, and she's like, I need a palace and a queen. And he's like, and luckily, I was trying to think of how that magic works, because what she means, right? She wants to find a powerful place, but I guess it's Ward's douchiness, if I can say, to be like, oh yeah, palace with a queen, Vegas, baby. It's like, no, she means the White House.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was so confident too. He was like, "Oh, just you wait. You'll be on your throne in no time."
That was a moment where, well, before that, Natalie had the moment of where Sif was like, "Your Agent Ward," and May was like, "He's not mine." And Lady Sif was like, "Well, he certainly isn't now." I just hear in the background my wife go, "Ooh," just that little drama. But then when they have the motorcycle and they drive away, she's like, "I'm sorry, did he take her to Vegas?" And I was like,
"Yes,
it's awesome." Yeah,
I have been to Caesar's. Man. It is fit for a queen. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
nothing but royalty vibes there. I do. So they get their little flirt on, and Ward says, "I felt something before for someone on my team." And that he's like, "That feels ridiculous now." And to me, it's like, it's obvious in this moment to me, even if this was the first time I was watching this, that he's not talking about May. That bomb is officially dropped later, but to me, even the first time I watched it, I'm like, that's not who he's talking about. He's not talking about May. But more importantly, then Lorelai and Ward fuck, and it's really hot. I think I said out loud, that's hot. That's really hot. They're both as much as Ward sucks, he's a sexy man, and those two smooshing is good for my eyeballs.
There are many, everybody talks about their own experience at Vegas, right? The crazy things that happen. Nothing is crazier than fucking an Asgardian in a Vegas hotel room. In this world, I don't care how many drugs you did, I don't care how much money you won, you didn't fuck an Asgardian in a hotel room in Vegas. Ward did,
Truth.
That's
what an experience to have. Yeah.
So Steve brought up the May and Sif chat, which I really love that whole scene. And not just May being like, he's not mine, but when she says like, oh, he might try to kill me, but he won't. And I love that. May knows what Ward's body strength is because she's been up inside there. And she knows that he does not have the ability to take her out. It's not just like arrogance. she's smart and she knows that Ward can't beat her.
Yeah. That's a good point.
True.
I didn't clock that, if you will, but you're totally right. It's just like May's not worried physically about Ward at all. About anyone on this team.
Well, maybe Lorelai. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to discuss, but we are going to take our quick little break. So if you are listening and you're drinking along, go refill, take your bathroom break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra. We are talking episode 15, Yes Men, with Marvel aficionado Steve Hund. So we've gotten a lot through the episode, but the scene I want to talk next is one of my favorite scenes, and that is Coulson and Gemma fighting. And because Coulson does not want the GH serum stuff to be known to everybody, because he does not want the alien business getting out yet, and he's saying it's not an option. And Simmons is really struggling with this no, and she's the kind of person that you can tell is like never really talked back to an authority figure before, but she's like, that's not a good enough reason. And then Coulson shoots back with two men lay down their lives, and like they're both giving really good arguments. And you've never really seen Gemma like this, especially with Coulson. I mean, Gemma has laid down her life more than once at this point because of how much she respects Coulson and this team. But girl's a doctor and a scientist, and she's struggling with all this. And I just love this interaction.
Yeah, that's a great point. Also, as you were saying all that, I was like, yeah, I admire how you were tapped into the show, because again, this is not my major. Like, that is such a good point that I did not catch during it. I was like, yeah, hypnotic siren, Asgardian, magical guardian. You know what I mean? Like, you're totally right.
It hit me, man. Like what you said, Jamie, about Simmons, she does not talk back. In the scene, she startles herself with her own voice.
Yeah.
And that's a really beautiful moment. But I think, yes, they are both making good arguments, her especially. The thing that I think is making her persist is that this is uncharacteristic of Coulson, and she can detect that there is something insincere about his choice. Because Coulson does not just say, this is how we're doing it, no questions asked. He is the leader who leads with his heart, and he divulges, and he's at least attentive. But like anytime this subject is brought up, Coulson just can't wait to get out of the room. So she smells it, and it's fucking with her, because she's trying to do the very best that she can, and she's rightfully excited about the prospect of having a new serum that can cure damn near anything instantaneously. Right. So yeah, it's dense. I like it.
Yeah. Simmons was I love Simmons in general. This was a great Simmons episode. I really appreciated that the writers did not fall into the trap of the trope of just like, well, get to that plot point and then we'll talk about it. But yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, what are you gonna say? Is this for a Tony leaves the room thing, or is this?
This is for how the plane starts to get affected by Lorelai.
That's where we're getting into now, because it's so funny. Like, May predicts just a little too late that Ward and Lorelai are coming to take out their main threat. And then probably my real favorite thing in the episode is I wrote in the notes that you both could see, Fitz gets Lorelai'd, and it's so funny.
Right.
Ian is so funny doing this, because even before he gets taken over by her, like the way he smiles when they're like, she becomes the embodiment of all their desires, he is excited about that, and he's not even affected yet. And so I love it, like the way he's like, I've got to protect I've got to stand guard so Lady Sif doesn't get to Lorelai. And I love the way that Coulson's like, okay, buddy. Like,
Okay.
he doesn't try to fight it. He knows
Sure,
better.
buddy.
It's
Yeah.
so funny. And then
He's
this
the
whole
most
time it feels
adorable
really hard.
betrayer ever.
So let me go
Yes.
back to my Simmons point now that you said that.
Yeah.
First off, I love that it was a good twist if you like live in the moment, that because you thought Fitz was just doing his like everyday just being Fitz, and then when he locks Sif in, you're like, what the why did he do? Oh my god, she's on the plane. You know what I mean? Like there's a moment of that.
Good moment.
And then okay, so this is what I want to say about Simmons. And more so the writers, is that they didn't fall in the trap of like, this could have been a perfect opportunity to like really hit hard on the will they won't they, with like having like a jealous Simmons, like, oh Laura, oh now Fitz is all about Lorelai, and they didn't. Like Simmons was so even keeled and so logical and like such a background star, specifically in this episode, that like I was like, go Simmons, hell yeah, Simmons, you know.
I agree. They could have, because we are in this, because like we've talked about this a lot, about like asking Tony, what do you feel about them? And Tony really sees them as like a brother sister vibe. But at this point, a lot of people are shipping them, just like people are shipping Skimmins. I don't think anybody's shipping Sky and Ward, but the train has left the station, and so and I agree, like, because like it easily could have gone in a weird way but there's already so much stuff going on where like Fitz and Simmons, it wouldn't have worked in this episode, because they had it just wouldn't have made sense, I don't think.
Yeah, I love when she was like, I'm not saying you were weak, I'm saying that all men are weak.
Yeah, we both cackled at that. That's
we did.
Yeah.
I love when Coulson knocks out Fitz. Like all that's really fun, and then we get this at the same time. Sif and Lorelai fight, just as May and Ward are fighting, and they're both really good fights. And you know, I love me some hand to hand. There's a great moment where Lorelai's just trying to get under Lady Sif's skin, and she is like, "I know you desire Thor, but you're more of a pet than a woman to him." And it's like, she's not really wrong. I wouldn't say pet, they're pals, but we know from the greater MCU that Sif has feelings for Thor, and they're not reciprocated.
Yeah, pet is definitely not right.
No, that's not. That's
her
mean
being
word.
mean.
Yeah. That was her being a little jabby.
I
love.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I like when May straight takes a run at Ward and tackles him through a wall of glass. Like, she's just such a boss.
Yeah, I loved when May was like, "You took my plane. I want it back." You're like, fuck yeah, May.
Yeah, it is that.
I want my plane back.
I love the moment where, like, for a split second, you think Ward bested May, and then she's like, nah, nope, I got the fucking mag.
Never.
Like, absolutely not. And then I love that she fucking punches him, even though she knows that he is fine now. And that brings us to the full circle of the love triangle. And because we got to talk about this, because Lorelai says to May, she says, he told me who he desired, and it wasn't you. And like, we know that that's true. We know that she's not lying. I mean, and that comes back to that little moment from the beginning and him saying he liked someone on the team. And while they have not specifically said who it is, we're not stupid. We know how to watch television. It's obvious. And then they break up, basically. And he's like, you can punch me again. And she's like, this, and she says, this was never a risk with me. We're done here. But I think the really important thing is she goes, you are more honest with her than yourself. Like, bang!
I love that
Truth
line.
drop.
That was a good line.
Tony, I know that you do not care about the May Ward romance, but how did you feel about like this? Presumably, I mean, who knows? They might rekindle, but for now, it seems like they're taking a break.
Well, I think I was wrong in my assessment that May wouldn't catch feelings, because she caught feelings and she got her feelings hurt. I don't care about their romantic relationship progress. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it was, what they set out to do to have this sort of purely physical stress release fling was healthy, but it happens. You catch feelings, and I don't like that May got her feelings hurt. That makes me sad because she is the womanist.
I would argue too that it's not even that she like, I don't think she even really caught feelings. It's still just a situation where you're fucking somebody and then you find out that he has feelings for like somebody else on your team. Is
You're
more
right.
of it's not like I'm there are feelings absolutely when you're fucking somebody in close quarters like that. For that amount of time, and then other things like that's just gonna happen, you know.
Sure.
Steve and I used to be in the theater company, and like, let me tell you, when I used to hook up with some of those people, and then I had to see them hook up with other people, and then it was like, oh, this was a mistake. Like, don't shoot where
I was
you
a
eat,
theater
right?
person.
Like,
We're whores.
like,
We're such
right?
whores,
Like,
all of us.
like, like, listen, like, I can tell you right now, that is my number one rule of life. Learning from my early 20s, so just don't shit where you eat. It worked out for Steve because he shot where he ate and then he got married.
I married her. Yeah.
Is that how babies are born?
Yep.
But for the most part, I would say it's not a good idea. And even when you're not in love with the person, you're gonna feel icky about things, how they unfold.
And May is like the type she's, for lack of a better phrase, she's emotionally inept, right? Like it's just like not part of the beast that she is. And so
is Ward.
So is Ward. Yeah, but he's like that's a good point. But he fucks around. You know, like May is very like lawful good, right? And so to Jamie's point, any type of like intimacy is going to rattle her a little bit. Even if she's not like fully in love or fully invested in the person, like any type of, what is this warm feeling is going to like be hard to calibrate in her brain.
Totally agree. Yeah.
I will say another moment when I realized Nat was actually like fully invested in this.
I love the Nat commentary side stories.
Yeah, me too. I wish she was here, honestly.
Yeah. He tries to shoot her, right? And she has the what do you call it?
The clip.
What's the clip? Thank you.
Magazine.
And when she did that, she was like, and then when May punches him later, she's like, yep, she's done with him. She is done with him. I was like,
and that was right. She was correct.
Yes. Oh wow.
She is so over him.
Then we get to the Coulson and Sky scene. Coulson tells Sky about the alien, and of course Sky's like, so? Because I don't blame her for having this reaction because she's like, yeah, Coulson, you seem fine. And like the dark is where we live. I'm an 084. Like, this is the least crazy thing that's happened to me in 15 episodes. I'm happy to be alive. And they decide that they're going to keep the secret from the team for now because it's such a powerful secret. They want to keep everybody safe. But like, I think Sky, I don't blame Sky for being like, okay, but I'm alive and you're alive.
This is what I said.
Right.
At the end of last episode, this was my whole thing. I was like, well, why are they tripping though? Like, why is Coulson tripping? Like, I understand it's scary that it's an alien and that it's unknown, but like, look at yourself. You are well. You've had 3 physicals, like, you know, and you're good, you're healthy. And so it was really nice to have Sky making my point to Coulson and chilling that dude out. Like, he needed to chill. And I really like that she heard him. She fully listened to what he said. So what? You know, great moment.
Yeah. Wait, I think that was the end, right? Oh, wait, but that's not the very end.
Yeah, we got the end tag, which is that May is listening, and she gets on a little secret line, and she's like, he knows. And what? Steve, I have some questions for Tony. So, Steve, I want your thoughts first of what you're gonna say about here at the end.
Totally exciting in the moment of like, ooh, what? And just the wonderful trope that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is good with, you know, is just keeping you guessing, keeping you on a cliffhanger. who is on whose team, and like that is like so much fun of Agents of Shield as like a collective. So a really fun moment to like re-witness. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, sure. We're just talking. Tony, this is such a gut punch, this moment.
Mhm.
Like, what is Meg doing? What are your thoughts and
It
feelings?
makes me sad. Yeah, it makes me sad. This is secrets between best friends. Like this, I mean, episode 1, she was talking to, was it Maria Hill, or no, it was the doctor maybe, who she said he can never know. And so she knows, I guess she knew all of that business, which is so yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. It's good intrigue, but it bums me out because I know what this means. I know that this is the thing that makes them so compelling together is their candor with one another, and their straightforwardness. And even when Coulson is being cagey, May's like, "Hey, I know something's up. You can talk to me." And it's not as though, "Hey, I know something's up. I don't think your head's right. We got to do something about this." They just trust each other. There's an incredible degree of trust between the two of them, and that is on a path to getting dashed, and it bums me out. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah. Before I lay down some historical facts about the episode, are there anything that either of you want to say about this that we didn't touch on?
Well, can I go ahead, Tony.
No,
Steve,
after you, Steve, please.
I'm so curious. Like this whole podcast is so great because like my rewatching this and Jamie's rewatching this, and anyone who just loves Agents of Shield, like reliving it, like for me, my memory starts to get mushy with like things that have happened since, things that were going on in the comic book world. I'm truly, genuinely curious, Tony. Where is your head at 15 episodes into this? On like who's your favorite right now?
My favorite is Coulson. He just keeps delivering
Okay.
for me. Yeah. And where my head is at, I think the thing that I am like enjoying most about this show that I find so surprising is the depth of feeling I have for these characters and the depth of feeling they have for each other in just 15 episodes. That is really, I think it's been a really impressive storytelling. Like episode 6 was, which is my favorite episode, and the places that went emotionally effectively depended so much on how thoughtfully the creators of the show and the writers developed the relationships. And I had 2 years of training with Jamie watching Buffy and Angel, long form episodic television, and so I like really. Yeah, oh yeah, damn it. But I really get into it. I really get into it. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That is the exact response that I was looking for. Like not that response, but like that satisfied my question.
Cool.
Well said. Well said.
It makes me happy that Tony recognizes already in 15 episodes that the thing that makes this show so good and why it is in my top 5 favorite shows of all time is because the characters they're just so lovable. You want to follow them on these journeys, and who knows who will last. We know how these shows work. Who knows this and that, but like just this strong, this many episodes in is amazing.
So I guess, wait, really quick. The same question to you, Jamie, but from the perspective of somebody who is like rewatch, like where is your head at when you rewatch episode 15?
Wow. I love getting interviewed. This is great.
I'm sorry.
I was being serious. This is great.
Okay.
I have seen. I've talked about this many times. I have watched the first 4 or 5 seasons probably 10 times. And because every time a new season would start, I would just go back and rewatch episodes. That used to be the way I watch TV. I don't really do that anymore. But so I will say though, even though I've seen these episodes so many times, it's still so exciting and so emotional. Especially Tony was talking about fizzed. I watched that episode twice in one day because it had a commentary, and I cried both times, even in the commentary watch. Like in a way, watching season 1, knowing what's coming, makes it hit even harder, and that's why I advocate that you should watch everything twice, because watching something on a second watch, it just changes everything because you know what's coming, and there are little things. And Steve, and when Tony leaves the room, we're going to talk about certain things that, like, some foreshadowing that, like, Tony would never ever know was foreshadowing ever, because, like, they're so random and subtle. Like absolutely, that, like, if he went back and watched this again in 7 years, he'd be like, oh shit, it seems like whoa. So it's crazy.
I think, just to remind your listeners, like, this is the beautiful part of this podcast and this concept of a show. Honestly, like,
Maria, clip it, make that a promo of Steve.
Honest to God, because it's like Jamie, like, if you know Jamie, or if you don't know Jamie, you will know that Jamie loves Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Tony, like, you are so well versed in just the medium of TV and movie that it's great to, like, see where, like, your lines cross as you are, like, experiencing for the first time. So again,
well, thank you, man.
I love it.
Wow.
It's so fun.
I love that.
It's so fun.
That's so nice. That's our new ad. We're gonna make that the ad, because
right.
I'm gonna cry now. We gotta get into the history.
So, but I had things to say. It's going to be a long episode.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, yeah. Tony, what are you going to say?
So, I wanted to talk about this guy. So one of the cops, when Lorelai possesses the cops, then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show up, and they're like surprised. One of those cops, the shotgun wielding guy, I see him in everything. He was also in a previous episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's in, like, what?
This was coming up in my history because you said that, but he's not in another episode before this.
Yeah, but he
looked
is.
it up. But
I've also looked him up.
Stuntman.
He does do
he's
stunts.
He's a stuntman who's been in episodes, but before this episode, where did you see him?
He was a bus driver for, I'd say, less than 1 second of the show that gets hit by something. And so he was a stuntman, doing that stunt. And then in this one,
was this the guy who said, what was the line? He was like, we're looking for a woman, and he's like, yeah, I seen her, and she is fantastic. And then he starts, that dude,
the older guy.
Yeah,
but he's credited for stunts for a few episodes, but they're all episodes after this one. He has no Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. credits before this episode. All right.
All right. Well,
I could not find evidence of that. Okay. No,
he's uncredited.
Please. All right, but usually uncredited, you can still find it on, like, IMDb or something, or it would be in the wiki. So I think that's interesting. I would like proof of this. I would, if anyone listening can help us, DM me on Instagram. I'll read them. And
this needs to be an update.
Account.
It needs to be an update in a later episode. Update on the cop conversation. Yeah.
Because you said this, so I looked into it, and he's in more episodes, but I couldn't find anything before this one. So DM me on the Lido account, not my personal account. I will not see that, but I will see it on the Lido account. But all right, so we're gonna put a pin in that. Tony, was there anything else before we get more into history?
I just want more Lorelai and Sif. The stinger of the previous episode was like, I thought we were going on like a 3-4 episode arc. I wanted to see Lorelai get that army. I wanted to see that hunt go across the world. Like, I really wanted that to be debate, and that was kind of what I was expecting, just because they did a stinger. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, we're setting up the next like few episodes, and it's a really good episode. I don't have any complaints. All I'm saying is I could have done with more.
Dude, you're totally right. Like, Lorelai as president, and then she has just like a concoction of armies, bikers, like politicians, mobsters, Italian mafia,
Yeah,
that would have been awesome. You should write that. That's your fan fiction that you can write.
Okay.
Yeah, love
That's it.
So this episode was filmed between January 8th and January 20th, so it took a little bit longer than some of our normals, but that's still not a lot of time. That's still 12 days. And one cool thing about this episode, when you hear the title Yes Men, you're thinking about how Lorelai is corrupting men, but also, it's also named this because Coulson has always been a yes man. He's a company man. And now this episode ends with him kind of defying that. And I think that is a cool little nod to why they chose that title.
I love that. And that is, yeah, that's fact, right? Like somebody confirmed that.
It was in the wiki.
Yeah, it was in the wiki.
The really official #1 source for everything. Jamie Alexander was not a surprise. She was announced in February that she'd be in the show, which isn't surprising, right? Like they're trying to, like at this point, they're trying to get people to watch this show. I still can't believe it lasted 7 seasons and got to end. Like every year was stressful. Are they going to cancel it? Are they going to cancel it? So of course they're not going to save Jamie Alexander for the day of surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jed Whedon at the time was quoted saying, "We always have our radar up for ways to tie our series into the Marvel films, and bringing in an Asgardian really cements that connection." Yeah, sure, of course that's correct.
Thor: Dark World paying off.
Yeah. It's so funny because Thor: The Dark World is considered one of the worst, and you said earlier, Steve, talking about how it really pays off in the show, whatever. But also the fact that Thor: The Dark World was so important for Avengers Endgame, I think, is the funniest troll Marvel Studios has ever done. Like, oh, you hate this movie? You have to watch it to understand Endgame.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's so funny.
And they were so like almost pseudo meta about it when Thor was explaining the what is red again? Power
Reality.
Thank you. But the way that Thor was like, it was like everybody going through the different stones, and then it was like Thor's turn to explain. It was so funny because he was essentially like, to me that was funny because he was essentially calling out like, yeah, we know that Thor: Dark World seems ridiculous, but it is important in this situation. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that.
The last little tidbit that I thought was interesting, Marvel COO at the time, Joe Quesada, he apparently designed the collar devices, which I'm like, I really need more information on this. This is more I'm like, really, Wiki? I assume that's true, but I'm surprised by it. Like, he's like, let me get in on this Lorelai collar design. And all the stuff with the costumes, like they really wanted to make sure the Asgardian stuff felt like that, the costume designer, and they nailed it. I mean, I believed that she was from Asgard.
Totally. The juxtaposition between Asgardian armor and biker uniform was like so great. Like I was laughing because it's like if a woman walks in not as cosplayer, but like you can tell she's wearing alien armor of some type, you're just gonna hold a pool stick and and just be like, oh, what's up, lady? Like, you want to go? Like, no, you would give that woman room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this isn't just a somebody in a Halloween costume. She's wearing Asgardian armor, and they're like, well, Toots, looks like we're gonna have to like fight about it.
Perfect. On that note, Tony, is there anything else you want to say before your goodbyes?
I'm excited to find footage of Alan Graff in that bus in an episode I can't remember. That's why I'm going to scan through every episode I've seen so far later to find him. I don't need your help.
I can't wait. I need the update.
Go get it.
Okay. Good.
All right. You want to say our thank yous, Tony, before you go?
I'll say thank yous. Yeah. Thank you to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our artwork. Thank you, Ryan Miera of Yellow Pills at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram. And thank you to our producer, Maria. Thanks, Maria.
You are very welcome. You're welcome, guys.
Thank you, Steve. You were cool.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, it was great. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, so much fun. Yeah. And before Tony leaves, and because in case anyone else who's listening is also leaving, don't forget to follow us on social media at LitoPod on Instagram. I'm back. we want your love is what I said. Sadly, you guys, we have another hiatus coming up. Our next episode is not until April 1st, which means, though, we will be back with a live show on Sunday, March 31st. So celebrate Easter with us live before the episode drops on Monday, April 1st. I know that after the episode, Maria and I will be watching Twilight. And we will also be doing a Patreon to discuss Captain America Winter Soldier sometime between April 1st and April 8th. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't already, this is the best time to join our Patreon because this is a big movie we're discussing. It's only $1 a month. And not only do we cover the Marvel movies on their 10th anniversaries, but sometimes we do random movies starring actors from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We just talked about Street Fighter, and it was really fun. So those are all my plugs. If you are watching along with Tony and do not want spoilers, it is time to leave.
We're leaving the room, everybody. Let's go.
Bye.
Bye, Tony. Yes,
Bye, everyone.
Steve, I think this is our longest episode.
I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm so sorry.
As long as you don't mind, I love it.
I don't mind at all. No.
I'm having an amazing time.
Okay, good. Good.
It's also later where you are, though.
No, yeah, that's fine. I mean, you know me. I could talk about this stuff for days. You know, like it's just so fun. It's so great.
You have to keep up because, like, I know the people are gonna want you back. So now you're like,
okay, good.
We want, we want you back. So I have some bullet points. I'm sure we're gonna go off on a lot of tangents, but the first thing I gotta bring up is when Ward and Skye are talking about Mike and Deathlock and all that. And he's like, I'm never going to forgive Mike for his part in this, for getting you shot. Fuck you, man. Like, he is so delusional. Like, he believes what he's saying. He does not take responsibility for being involved in this at all.
No. So what is your overall opinion of Ward?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, he sucks and I hate him, but I also love Brett Dalton. And I love, he comes back at a point that in season 4, I don't know if you've gotten there.
No, I think I've gotten there. Yeah.
When in the final season, I wanted them to bring him back so badly because they were in an alternate timeline. And I was so sad they didn't. I love seeing him. I think he's fun to hate. I do think they ran out of ways to keep him in the show, and so that, but I love to hate him, basically.
Yes. Okay, that's a great way of saying it. You're talking about that time loop episode. Was there a reason why they didn't bring him back?
Well, no, I'm talking about the entire 7th season. Well, most of it was like it was an alternate timeline, but it was also in the past. So they really never hit our time. But while watching it, I really wanted him back because he was such an important part of the show. And when actually we're recording this a couple days early, it's actually, what's the date? It's actually the 9th. Don't tell anybody. So today's actually the 6th anniversary of when I moderated the 100th episode panel. And he was there, even though he wasn't on the show anymore. He was still involved with the panel, and he was so sweet. And he loves this show, and that's why it's like you can't. Anyone who like strictly hates Ward, I'm like, but Brett, how can you hate Brett Dalton?
Yeah. But if you separate the actor with the character, the character, like
sucks.
It's just okay, thank you. Okay. I feel better about that.
No. It's fun to watch Tony hate him because we're 2 episodes away. Like, it has been so stressful keeping this, and we're so close because he has no idea. So like, we're so close. And
you think he has no idea? I mean, I knew I had some. Okay, all right.
I was waiting for when we brought up May in the ending. I was waiting for him to even consider her as Hydra, and I don't think that's even on his mind. And that's why I'm like, when we do this Patreon for Winter Soldier, I'm really interested to see how much I don't think he's prepared for any of these core 6 people to be Hydra. I don't think he's even
That's
thought
interesting. About it. Yeah, because that's why I was bringing up with Sitwell how crazy it was that this was a month before Winter Soldier. You know, I think like a new appreciation for me as rewatching this was realizing how much it lined up with Winter Soldier. So it'll be interesting to hear Tony's take when he gets there.
I cannot wait. I'm already like, how do I film his reaction without? Because you don't, because it's episode 17, but you don't know about
Right.
him until the end tag when he kills Victoria Hand. That's when you find out. So, but again, this is we'll see what he says in the Patreon. We'll see what he says in the next episode, because there's a lot. Like the next episode is when May and Coulson, he stops trusting her. All this stuff. I also want to talk about the fact that when Sif says that Thor will be happy Coulson is alive, and Coulson's like, I'd prefer he heard it from me. And what sucks is he's never going to hear it from him. And that will always bum me out, is that none of the Avengers will ever know Coulson's alive. And I think they keep that because they were always hesitant about how this far this would be canon. And we've talked about the canon of it all for so long. And at this point, it veers off so much in season 5 and all that nonsense. But I didn't want to say this to Tony because I don't want him to just know that we're never going to get that resolved, but we're never going to get that resolved.
We're never going to get that resolved. You're totally right. I mean, it did stand out when I rewatched it, that line, and I just never thought about it. I just assumed, off screen that happened, but you're totally right. And I think this goes back to my ADHD brain, is because part of the, is it canonic? Is it tied to the MCU? And you could tell in the moment that they were struggling with that. It was really frustrating as a fan, a nerd, right? To just be like, it is, right? Like, it obviously is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Especially at this point. Like I always say, at this point right now, we are in the main timeline. That they hashtag it's all connected. That's what they were promoting this as. So whether or not it fell off in season 5 when Thanos snapped, whatever, right now, this is the canon and what's happening. And it's sad
100%.
that we never get to see Tony Stark, not my boyfriend, see, Coulson's alive. It's sad.
Yeah, that is such a great point. You were totally right.
Another thing, a foreshadow that is really subtle, and I bet that you maybe didn't catch it because it's been a while since you've watched, is the whole thing with May not needing a gun, and then May talks about how she doesn't need a gun, but she knows how dangerous people who are being controlled are. And that is absolutely foreshadowing what happened to her in Bahrain, because know now that Bahrain all came down to a child who was an Inhuman who was manipulating all these people. That's exactly what happened in Bahrain. So that they're already planting those Bahrain scenes, even though we're not going to find out until into season 2 what actually happened there.
That is a deep cut, JB Jirak, man.
That's what I'm here for.
I mean, when you say those things, that's the kind of stuff that draws me back in. That's why I was so. That's why I kept going back to specifics, because they were they are so good at making sure that you stick along with the people who are so loyal, and for the casual watchers like myself, but love Marvel. You really know how to bait me back in with that twist whatever. But yeah, no, I totally did not catch that. That is such a great seed planted.
Exactly. And I need to know now, what was your issue with season 4 that made you stop?
The Watchdogs.
Oh, fair. I was both Ghost Rider and the LMDs are good.
No, loved
Ghost Rider. But the Watchdogs aren't that much of the season. There's one episode that's all about the Watchdogs, and that episode is one of the worst.
Yes.
But then the season, the LMD into the Framework arc is season 4 is my favorite season, because the Framework arc is my favorite thing they've ever done. So, but the Watchdogs, I totally get.
Yeah, and that again is why I said my number 1 was my ADHD brain, because it's Steve brain is just because you don't know how long it's gonna last, right? Moment. And so I just find another shiny new toy. But then of course Ghost Rider, I'm definitely watching that one. Anything LMD, I love forever. You know what I mean? So I think that's why I say casual fan, because I would bib and bop, but I would bail on. Yeah. Does
Understandable. Absolutely. Yeah. I respect it. But if you're worried about in the future, it's not that big of a deal. But the episode where Mac's brother is into the Watchdog shit, that's just one meh episode. And then from there it's lots of bangers.
All right.
Before we say goodbye, Steve, do you have any
Yes.
final thoughts, feelings?
This was so great. Thank you for inviting me. Both of you are great. This is a great concept. I love it. Also, like, it's just there's so much, specifically Marvel, not just comic book, but there's so much Marvel stuff that we in the past 2 decades have just gotten to consume, that it is so nice to go back and just like reconnect with these like early MCU moments. You know what I mean? So I just had a delight doing this, like rewatching it, you know, like getting to see my friends again. So thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you. I'm so happy. Like I was just so excited when you said yes, because this has been so much fun. Our final goodbye. Thank you to everyone for listening. We missed you in the chat. I can't imagine how long it would have been if we were talking to people in the comments. We will be back for the episode End of the Beginning on Sunday, March 31st is when we are doing the live show, but the episode will officially drop on Monday, April 1st. Check out the episode, our episodes on all major podcast platforms, and don't forget to tell your friends who haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and use us as their companion podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Maria. Everyone, have a great time. I hope you enjoyed the Oscars as much as I probably did at this point.